Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome to another episode. This is John. In today's video, we're going to be visiting Hermosa Beach, California, one of the beautiful surfer towns in the South Bay area. While doing so, we're also going to be talking about the top 10 most annoying questions photographers get. So stick around, it's gonna be a beautiful ride. Alright folks, welcome back to my channel once again. I'm currently driving over to Hermosa Beach and I'm actually driving by a beautiful beach route. I'll be sharing the B-roll with you through my GoPro as well. But we have about 30 minutes on the road. I know it's been a while since I last shared my video about the 2024 goals. I believe I haven't shared anything for 3 weeks now, and I've been seeing the decline in the subscriber count as well. So I understand on YouTube, consistency is the key. So I intend to stick with that, as I made that a 2024 goal as well, but I just had a bit of a delay here and there due to some life updates that I would love to share with you all. Well, the first update is I gave in my resignation to the company I was working at. I'm still going to be working in the influencer marketing space, this time more on the talent side, but I will be starting my new job next week at a new company. So I'm very excited about that. Aside from that, I know in 2024 goals, I had mentioned that I would love to pursue a more active, healthy lifestyle, but we actually got caught with not just cold or possibly flu, but also COVID. So we've been actually dealing with that for the past week or so. And then of course I had family visiting from Turkey, so it's been very, very busy and very hectic. But now that all of that is out of the way, I'm back on YouTube. I'm gonna continue filming content with you. And like I said, this video is going to be dedicated to the top 10 most annoying questions that photographers get. And we're going to be actually doing that while walking around Hermosa Beach and shooting photos here. So while we're on the road to Hermosa Beach, it would really mean a lot to me if you could give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and throw a comment or two. As I will be talking about the top 10 most annoying questions photographers get, if you happen to have any of those questions that you have been receiving, please put that in the comments as well, as I would love to know what other questions are out there. So let's go ahead and visit the town of Hermosa Beach. What do you say? Okay, so I just parked over by the parking lot behind all these bars and pubs here in Hermosa Beach, right down by the Strand. And I'm headed over to the pier first, as I really enjoy shooting photos of that. I've actually taken a lot of different long exposure photos, reflective photos of the pier during sunrise, sunset. I'm definitely gonna be sharing them with you on here as well. But let's start with our list of top 10 most annoying questions that photographers actually get. And when I list these, I just want you to understand that this isn't coming from a place of hatred. This just happens to be some of the most frequent questions that us as photographers we've been getting. And the place of intent comes from curiosity. Actually, do you mind if I put you on my YouTube? All right, sorry. All right, folks, as I'm shooting my vlog, obviously I'm not a big YouTuber, but I met Anthony over here with FedEx. And he's gonna be starting his channel as well.
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. So he's gonna comment, I hope, in this video once he starts his channel with his channel link. Definitely go take a look. He's gonna be sharing his journey as well. Nice to meet you, Anthony. Appreciate you. Stay connected, all right?
For sure.
Take care.
Sure.
Thank you. This is the beauty of creators, folks. I mean, wherever you go, especially in Los Angeles, so many walks of life, they have their own story to tell. They have their own perspective and creativity to share with the world. And outlets like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok definitely empower the creators out there on top of brands that already take interest in you to be able to monetize your content further. I recommended Anthony to use some of those tools like TubeBuddy that I have been actually utilizing since I started this channel. And thanks to all of you and your interest, I was able to grow all the way up to 2,277 subscribers so far. But that was Anthony. Super glad to connect with him randomly on the street, who took interest because he saw my cameras. Alright folks, so let's continue. I'm going to be listing, like I said before, the top 10 most annoying questions us photographers always get. And before we get started on the list, I just want to reiterate that this isn't coming from a place of hatred. These are just annoying because they are very frequently being asked. So our first question at the top of the list is going to be, what camera do you shoot with? You know, when you look at all the cameras that are being sold out there, they come with so many varieties of capabilities, whether it's the facial recognition or eye recognition, the different types of frames per second it could shoot, the megapixels, the different ranges of lenses it comes with, and the compatibility, full frame, crop frame. There are so many different options out there. So it is fair to ask, what camera should I buy? But I would ask it in the context of, what are you first interested in and what's your level of familiarity with photography? Because if you're gonna buy the most expensive camera out in the world right now and you don't know anything about it, would you really be fulfilling the full capacity and capability of your camera and actually make good use out of the money that you're spending? And frankly, I shoot with a lot of different cameras. I mean, you've seen me during Lake Tahoe. I've been shooting with the Fujifilm X100V, Light L16. I've been shooting obviously for years to come with Canon cameras. My 5D Mark III is still serving me well. You know, I use a wide variety of cameras. So let's continue with our second question, and that is, do you shoot RAW or JPEG? I get this question pretty frequently actually now that I started shooting with the Fujifilm X100V because it's a little bit loud. But why is this question so important to those who are asking? Because they may not really understand why they should be shooting RAW versus JPEG. When you look at a RAW, it has a larger file size and JPEG doesn't. So that could be one reason. Another reason is they want to understand what RAW is in comparison to a JPEG. And frankly, JPEG is what you see is what you get. You know, whatever you've captured with that setting, with that simulation, or whatever it may be, whatever you capture is what you get. And there's very little manipulation availability within that because you could be distorting the photos, color, contrast, brightness, whichever perspective that you shot it at. Whereas RAW, it gives you more flexibility with the control of light. Post-production, you're able to go on Photoshop and Lightroom and be able to edit that in a much better capacity. So to that extent, if you do have the intent to actually edit those photos and utilize it in a commercial way or make a better use out of the memories you've captured, RAW is definitely a better option. But if you're like, you know what, my memory card isn't large enough, I don't really know how to edit these because I don't have these tools cost a lot, then you know what, JPEG might be your better option. But if you have the intent of actually editing photos properly, RAW is your safest bet. Now that we've covered the second question, let's continue with our third question. And this is usually in cases where you may have a client or you may have a subject like a model you may have taken a photo of, and you have all these raw files that you shot and you're going to be editing them. After you edit them, of course, you got to give them back in the form of JPEG or TIFF or PNG, whichever form the client has requested, usually JPEG. But then the client will ask, can I have those raw files? And that is the third most annoying question that us photographers get. Because when people ask if they could get the raw photos, that means usually that they will try to edit them themselves. And we all know that as photographers, we're the artists. We're not just shooting a photo for the sake of shooting it and then letting somebody else edit them for us. But when somebody hires a photographer, they mean that they want your work. And your work includes the editing of a raw photo and the delivery of it in the form of a JPEG. So that's why when somebody asks if they could have the raw photo, it's not usually taken kindly by photographers, and if anything, you'll get charged extra for it because they want to make sure that their job is not misrepresented. Because when you edit and somebody doesn't edit the photo right, and then they slap the photographer's name on it, and guess what? If the edit doesn't look right, that photographer is not going to be critiqued kindly because they're going to critique the photo based on the edit, the final form. So the photographer wants to ensure that they're safe, that their work and name are not damaged. Okay, so that was question number 3. Let's continue with number 4. Do you take photos for free exposure? I didn't get this question until Instagram came into place, to be honest, because where would you really get free exposure, right? It has to be a magazine or a blog or a website at the time, or maybe somebody's MySpace page, I don't know. But when Instagram came into place and it took great popularity, a lot of the people who wanted to be in the modeling, acting scene, or they just wanted their headshots taken, and they had some form of leverage, perceived leverage that they think they could offer, they would say, hey, do you mind taking photos of me? I'll share it, I'll give you exposure. And maybe that person has 1 million followers. But here's the thing, to gain exposure, it doesn't mean just share the photo. It also means proper credit. And that's gonna be another question that we're gonna be addressing as well. Free exposure doesn't feed you. Free exposure doesn't pay your rent. Free exposure doesn't take care of your family or pay your utility bills or pay your mortgage. So when somebody asks that, especially if they don't know you and they just hit you up on DM and goes, hey, I'll give you free exposure if you shoot my shot, it doesn't work. So it's really an annoying question actually that most photographers would get, mostly through social media, not through email necessarily. But it is one of those questions. So please don't ask this. Ask about their rate first, because these people probably want to get paid for this. They're spending money, they're spending resources. They obviously paid for their cameras, right? They're already at cost to begin with. So saying, I'll give you free exposure doesn't really do them good unless they're interested in it. Alright, so let's continue with question number 5. And this is particularly something that I happen to get frequently. I don't know why. Maybe people see that I'm a good fit for it with my style and my perspective. I'm not sure. But do you shoot weddings? That is definitely one of the frequent questions that I get that I'm the most annoyed at. And those who have asked, take no offense in this. I love you all who have asked, because you came to me with such a special ask, with a special wish that you have seen me actually a fit photographer for your wedding. So I really, really appreciate that. I take that into heart and I love you all for that. But the reason why I dislike shooting weddings is because just imagine the level of stress that comes with it. It is one and done. There's no redo. You don't want to deal with an upset bride, an upset groom, or an upset family member because you couldn't capture that beautiful moment, or maybe you captured it but not to your liking. I just can't deal with that stress. I don't really have the stress level to be able to handle that. Even though it's handsomely paying, I just don't want to put myself in that situation. Alright, so let's continue with question number 6, and I have it actually noted over here, and that is, what camera settings did you use to shoot this shot? Well, the reason why I find this to be more annoying is because the magician never tells us secrets, right? Photography is about the manipulation of light. It's the physics of light, where you're able to actually control the shutter speed, the aperture, the ISO. So you want to make sure that you have the best exposure to your liking for the photo you wish to compose and create. Whether it's the form of a long exposure or a still image, maybe an action shot, it all comes with varying degrees of control of light. And just like how a magician doesn't want to share their secrets, a photographer is usually very secretive about that too. And they're also secretive about the location, by the way, but I'm not, so that's why I don't perceive that as an annoying question. But many of the people who actually love a shot, they'll ask the photographer for the location, and most won't share it. Alright, let's continue with number 7. And this is, can I take same quality photos on my smartphone? This is very debatable actually. At this day and age where phones are actually going head to head with camera manufacturers, and then you see the camera brands like Leica and Hasselblad actually working with smartphone companies, I would say they're not neck and neck, but it's almost there. Obviously smartphones are more accessible. If you're gonna buy something, there's better use within that. Whereas a camera, are you gonna carry a camera with you constantly? You're gonna carry your smartphone with you constantly. So it actually comes with a better purpose built in overall. But when it comes to certain capabilities, I would suggest that smartphones are still lacking it big time. The first one being is the telephoto capability. You know, you're not really able to zoom in nicely to be able to capture that crisp shot with a lot of details. And a photography camera, a professional camera, is actually able to do that with the telephoto lens it comes with. If I were to shoot photos of surfers, for instance, I could pick up my Sigma 300 to 600 millimeter lens, put it on my Canon 5D Mark III or Mark IV, and then go to the Malibu Pier and take photos of those surfers without any problem. But in my opinion, a camera, a professional degree camera, still outweighs the capabilities and the powers of a smartphone camera. But who knows, maybe down the line that's all gonna change. Right now it's still the same, and smartphones are revolutionary to actually push the industry in the right mindset, in the right capabilities, and there are visionary companies like Samsung out there that's actually thinking way up ahead than an iPhone does. All right, our next question, why is professional photography so expensive? Well, I'll tell you. The first reason is cameras are not cheap. When somebody buys just the camera body alone, you're looking at upwards or an average of $1,600 to $2,000 of an expenditure. And then you start adding those lenses, the light gear, the reflectors, the remotes, all of that. You're looking at around $10,000 or so, again, in average of spending. And then you look at the people's costs for transportation, their utility costs, living costs, all that added up. Of course it's expensive. They want to be able to not just cover their costs for the initial equipment purchase, but they want to be able to provide themselves and their loved ones a living. And on top of that, when you pay a photographer, it is not just the job of shooting the photo, it's also editing the photo. And it takes multiple days to edit these photos and provide them to you as a result of your meetup and your photography. So it is actually a longer process than just shooting photos on the day of. And that is the main reason why photography service is expensive. All right, so here's another one. Why does it take so long to get edited photos back? Well, it depends on how many photos you've captured with your photographer, and it would also depend on how complicated of an ask that you have for the photographer for the finished product. If you're shooting, let's say, an interior design or a real estate photo where the photographer has to take multiple exposures to actually create a beautifully exposed interior, it could take a while to get those shots back. If you're asking for a commercial shoot where your sole purpose was to shoot fashion photos and you have all these different looks with different makeup, so many different models, well, guess what? That's gonna take a while. So let's be realistic here. There's no like quick turnaround in 1 day, 2 day time frame. Photographers have other clients, have other projects, hopefully. So it'll just take time, and in due time, you'll receive the end result. So be patient. All right, I think we're making some progress over here, folks. So let's go ahead and visit our last question. And I kind of briefly touched base on it before in an earlier question, but this question is always something that's on top of mind for me. Why do photographers always ask for credit? And that is because if somebody wants to give that photographer an exposure because you appreciate that person's work, their time, and the result of that work, you do want to give them the proper credit. And the proper credit stands for tagging them on the caption, tagging them on the photo itself if you're on Instagram, so that there's a clickable option for your viewers, for your own audience, who also have taken interest in that photographer's work. You want to make it easy for that exposure to translate into a potential follower, a potential admirer for that photographer you have worked with. So usually a proper credit is not given. It is in the sense of just mentioning the full name in the sense of a text, not as a tag, but as a text, where it's not clickable. And as we all know, it takes a lot more probably for somebody to go and search for that person's name instead of simply clicking a tag. And because of that, you want to make it easy for everybody. But that's about it for the top 10 most annoying questions us photographers get, folks. If you have any additional ones you wish to mention that you happen to be getting a lot, definitely comment them down below. I would love to hear more about what type of questions that you guys are getting. If this is your first time visiting my channel, please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and throw a comment or two, as I would love to hear your thoughts. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.